Look at all of them, so eager to hear what you are going to say. The world is changed by little acts. Whatever you do will be great.
You're terrible. Quit while you're ahead.
With that attitude, would Gandhi have freed India? Everyone's perspective is valuable. Let the thoughts germinate. Love them. Feed them. One of them will grow into a large redwood, a brilliant idea that no one has ever thought of before. The world needs you.
Gandhi, that's perfect. Exactly my point. How have you suffered? The world really needs to hear more from a privileged white man. We haven't had enough of your perspective in the last 4,000 years. Pack it up, buddy. Go home and write a blog about your experiments with quiche recipes.
If you leave now, fear has won. You are better than that.
Trite. Derivative. Tired. Been done. That too. New but stupid. And the other idea's pea-brain.
Don't you have a Halloween to prepare for?
Don't you have a Jimmy Stewart movie to salivate over?
You know he's going to talk, which means I won.
Sure. The intoxicating power of the human spirit inspires all of us to rise up and smite injustice in the world.
I have always had stage fright, since the 4th grade. I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream, the musical. I was Puck. I had my shirt off. I was wearing these cut-off green shorts that my mom had made me. She stapled these cloth leaves to them so that they looked more like something a wood nymph would wear. And I was about to start my solo. Lord, what fools these mortals be. But all I could think about was how the entire school was looking back at me and that these staples were itching my legs. My mind went blank. When I finally came to, I awkwardly finished the solo, but a seed was planted, a fear of messing up, of looking stupid, of failing. Even so, I still felt compelled to do live theater. And now, after pursuing a career in live theater and confronting my fear, it's informed me of who I am more than anything else in my life. Vulnerability can be powerful. We live so much of our lives online, a place where there is a lot of exposure. There's a thing called a cellular celebrity. And you would think that this would kind of make us confront vulnerability more, when in fact, oftentimes the opposite is true. There is exposure, but we aren't really exposed. Our digital lives online don't have to face fear because we choose meticulously how to present ourselves and how to engage. The lure of the mouse click and the tap on the screen is a promise of complete and total control. It's a world where vulnerability is on the verge of extinction. But here, live theater, performance, this is a place that enables the vulnerable in all of us. We don't know what is going to happen right now. We really don't. Things could go terribly, terribly wrong. And that's a good thing. This is a place where there's a silent contract between those of us on and behind the stage and the audience. In this house, we will celebrate the rough and incomplete edges. Together, we will strive to solve the unsolvable. We will unpack and analyze the unjust and idiosyncratic elements of the human condition. Here, we have the goals of Samuel Beckett: to make modern man's destitution his exaltation. After college, I went to LA to work in film, but I missed theater a lot. And there I saw footage of the show Blue Man Group. The Blue Men, they don't speak, but a lot is said during the show, with their eyes, with making artwork, and with drumming. There is a sensitivity and a humor to the character that I immediately identified. So the very next day, I drove to Las Vegas to an open call. They told me I needed to be a better drummer. So I drove back to LA, hired a drum teacher, practiced drumming for 5 hours a day for 6 months, auditioned again, and I got the gig. Yeah. After 12 and a half years, I've performed full-time in Las Vegas, in London, in Chicago, and I was the cast captain in New York City for the last 7 years. And then, it's been 4 months since I've left the show, the length of this beard here. And now I teach theater at Johnson State College, back here in Vermont. Konstantin Stanislavski has a term called transformation in his system of acting. And this is when a new self is formed, comprised of the actor and the character that they're portraying. He says that transformation can only happen when the goals of the actor are directly in sync with the goals of the character. One of the reasons why the Blue Man Show is so compelling is because these goals are naturally in sync throughout the show. It's the actor's goal to catch all those marshmallows in his mouth. It's also the Blue Man's goal. It's the actor's goal to assess carefully the energy and the attention of the audience so that by the end of the show, we can all be brought together. This is also the Blue Man's intent. I performed the show roughly 4,000 times. If you link that together, that's equal to 8 months straight. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, standing in front of an audience, wearing bald blue makeup. I don't think Stanislavski meant for his transformation to be taken to this extreme. Certainly there was a new self that was formed when I embodied this Blue Man character, but this character also changed who I was. There are 3 main ways that I want to share with you. The first is listening. So much can be learned about the world and the people around you if you just shut up for a little bit. There's often times where a solution is not needed immediately. Instead, it's better to actively listen. This is true for the world and for the people around you, but it's also true for learning about yourself and your internal life and your own body. Oftentimes, this is a process of unlearning. We have our ways, and we have the ways that we're wired, and this is a chance to change that, to learn something new about yourself. Jerzy Grotowski calls this process the via negativa, and he used it as a way to get his actors to achieve a truly authentic performance. His concept was that there is a natural wall between desire and action. And through unlearning, through taking away rather than filling new information in your head, you can get closer to your internal self. On stage as a Blue Man, I was silent for an hour and a half every single night. And it helped me learn what my body was actually telling me. After a few years of doing the show, I became so comfortable with the character that I allowed gesture to precede thought. This is something that completely changed how I thought of acting. And it changed how I thought of myself as well. Lesson 2. Innocence does not equal stupidity. The Blue Man character, looks at the world anew. And we don't look with any judgment, because everything in front of us, every single element, has the possibility to hold the key to connection. So much can be said if we simply stand in front of an audience with minimal movement and look back with openness. There is an element of danger that's here, that's communicated. There's also a savant kind of focus. And there's also a tenderness and a love that can be communicated in this exchange. The one thing that this does not communicate is stupidity. And this was a revelation to me. When I was younger, I always felt so embarrassed to admit when I didn't know something. I felt like it was relinquishing some small bit of social control that I had. But the blue man showed me that there was a power in this innocence and a strength. Neuroscientists have proven that our mind is the most active when we are in a state of awe. And we cannot get to that state without confronting the unknown. We cannot get to that state simply by reading Wikipedia. A mathematician friend of mine once told me that he was in the business of being confused. He said that once he was no longer confused, that meant the problem was solved, and he was no longer a mathematician. He told me that he seeks out confusion. This is a scary concept, but the same should be true for artists and for all of us. Seek out confusion. Look into the dark with wide eyes and put the awe back in awesome. Lesson 3, contradiction is good. The blue man character is an innocent, but he is also a bomb squad hero. He is an ancient shaman, but he is also a mad scientist of the future. He is a team player, but at the same time, he's a punk rock trickster. I did not have the acting training to be able to embody all of these contradictions simultaneously. So in the first year of doing the show, I simply didn't. I only did half of these opposites. It didn't allow myself to go to the other side at the same time. This felt okay, this felt clean and polished, but in the end I wasn't doing the character justice. So after a while, I forced myself to embody that liminal space in between these contradictions, even though I didn't have the motivations that I felt like I needed to, even though it didn't feel quote-unquote real, I did it anyway. And it felt unpolished, it felt uncomfortable, it didn't feel good. It felt like I was showing my dirty laundry to my fellow blue men on stage and to the audience. But something very interesting happened here. When I inhabited that liminal space, it felt more real, more honest, more profound, more human than any kind of performance that I'd done before. The blue man taught me Walt Whitman's famous words. Do I contradict myself? Very well. I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I wanted to learn more about this, so while I was at Blue Man, I got my MFA at Brooklyn College in Performance and Interactive Media Art. And it was there that I was able to apply critical theory to all of these concepts that I've been learning about performance. And there I also learned about my love of teaching. The same kind of fear and energy and adrenaline that I got from being on stage my entire life, I got back tenfold from teaching. So I realized that before my blue man became a teenager, 13 years old, maybe it was time to move on. And now, teaching theater to college students, the same thing is happening that I learned with the blue man character. That what we learn on stage, as the audience, and as the actors, and as the entire crew to make productions happen, what we learn there can be applied to the rest of our lives. And that was a final revelation. Performance is transgression. Theorist Peggy Phelan talks about this moment that we're having right now. It's called liveness, this exchange between a performer and an audience. And she says it's one of the few places in society that there's an exchange that's not commodifiable. She says that it is inherently going against the very tenet, the main tenet of capitalism, because this thing right here cannot be duplicated. It is ephemera. It is only for here and for now, between me and you. And because it can't be duplicated, it is inherently transgressive. Now sure, people pay to see theater, you paid to see this talk, and this talk will have a life online after this transgressive experience that we're having right now, but it still is true. It still is true because this is live, and you and I are the only ones here to see it. And also, it's also true because if you think about Phelan's words, when you think about why do we still come to theater? Why did you come to this talk today when you could have seen it online later? Why do we see theater when we have Netflix in our pocket? You all are accomplices in this transgression with me. You all are vigilantes of vulnerability. Performance theorists have had to answer this question of why does theater still exist ever since film and then television and then internet were invented as a new form of collective communication. Bertolt Brecht says that theater is not the mirror to place up in front of society, but the hammer by which to shape it. Leave the suspension of disbelief to the moviegoers. Grotowski says that his theater is meant to be poor. Leave the glitz and the glamour to film and television with the costumes and the sound and the lighting so that theater can focus on the one thing that makes it unique. This live connection between the performer and the audience. Anne Bogart says, if you're going to do one thing in performance, make sure that it's embarrassing. And what she means is that performance is one of the few places where vulnerability, standing, open, is a currency and not a weakness. This currency, this contract that you and I have entered in, that we will analyze the human condition vulnerably, this contract has the power to change the world. In closing, I want to bring back that idea of the angel and devil and say that it's a lot easier to talk about vulnerability than it is to truly embody it. Especially when it comes from someone like me who embodies so many privileges. I'm white, I'm heterosexual, I'm able-bodied, I'm a cisgendered male. There are many vulnerabilities that I don't even know about. But I want to know about them. And the world should know about them. And to that I say, I'm listening. Thank you.